Good day, viewers and listeners. I am Masana Jesise, who has come to continue with our English language lessons. Last time, we started looking at phrases. Those of you who are following the lessons, you've learned that we treated noun phrases as well as adverbial phrases. And today, we are going to look at adjectival phrase. Just as a gentle reminder, our last lesson was on noun, and we said noun phrases, just like noun as a word, have the same functions. Noun phrases act as subjects of verbs, objects of verbs, subject complements, object complements, complements of prepositions, etc. So equally, that's what noun phrases do. So today we are coming to look at adjectival phrase. Now, already we discussed that phrases are always a group of words without finite verbs. So it means now when you look at adjectival phrase, we may have some examples where we have verbs in them. We may have some other examples where we may not have verbs in them. But what is clear is that whether there are verbs or otherwise, then what is clear is that there shouldn't be anything like finite verb. So last class we said the difference between finite verb and non-finite verb has to do with the verb in relation to the subject or time. When you have a verb in a given expression, if you change the subject, if the verb changes to agree with these changes, then that verb is finite. Or if you change the time, if the verb also changes to agree, then that verb is also finite. But once you change the subject, the verb remains as it is. Or you change the time or tense of the verb remains the same, then that verb is non-finite. So in short, phrases are a group of words with or without a non-finite verb. So let's look at a few examples here. If we just say in the class, by looking at this, if we just say in the class, here there's no verb at all. So we call it a phrase. If we also say standing under the tree, here we have a verb that is in progressive form. This is non-finite because it can change, just as we discussed last class. So today, our objective is to look at adjectival phrase. So let's look at adjectival phrase. Now, as the name implies, adjectival phrase is a group of related words which qualify nouns and pronouns. So it means what adjectives do is what adjectival phrases do. So any group of words without a finite verb which tells us more about a noun or pronoun is adjectival. So you take note. If, for instance, we have an example like this, if we say the ugly man. Now, by looking at this, the ugly man is a phrase. And you know this one is noun phrase, the ugly man. But let's analyze this structure. We have article, we have adjective, we have noun. Now, when you look at this adjective, ugly, what is the role of this word here? All that it does is to give us additional information about the noun. Here, you can just ignore it altogether, connect this word with this, and you read the man. Which man we wouldn't know. So what this ugly does is to qualify the noun man. It is trying to describe the noun man. So basically it does that. So let's look at adjectival phrase in detail. Now one thing you need to know is that adjectival phrases may be pre-modifiers. They may also be post-modifiers, or we call them qualifiers. That is, if you say pre, mean it may come before the word it qualifies. If it is post, it may come after the word it qualifies. But take note, for example, usually adjectival phrases are placed very close to the word they qualify. In other words, they come immediately after the word they qualify. So you take note of that. Now, when you look at adjectival phrases, we have features. Now, we have features of adjectival phrases. Now, when we say features, these are attributes. What are some of the things that you factor in order to analyze a given expression and draw your conclusion that that given expression is adjectival. In fact, take note, be it noun, adjectival or adverbial, be it clause or phrase, you only name it after knowing the function, because a given expression could be adjectival in one context but can also be noun in a different context or adverbial. Let's look at examples here. Now, if we say the boy under the tree is happy. Now, assuming we have this as example, and we say this example 1, we say example 2, we say they placed the bucket under the tree. Now, when you look at these two examples, the boy under the tree is happy. If you underline the under the tree here, we say they placed the bucket under the tree, we underline this. You come to realize that the underlined word is the same, it has the same words, but then functionally the two are different. Now, by looking at this one, the boy under the tree is happy. This under the tree is acting as a qualifier, and what it does here is to give us additional information about the noun boy. You can just say the boy is happy. It makes sense. Now, under the tree is giving us more information about the noun boy. When you come to 2, they place the bucket under the tree. This under the tree here functionally is indicating place. So it is play role of an adverb. So you take note. So therefore, if you are given a particular expression and it's underlined and you are asked to indicate whether it is noun, adjectival or adverbial, look at the role it plays. That will help you to determine the name you give it to. So once it is giving you information about a noun or pronoun, you call it adjectival. If it is modifying a verb, adjective or another adverb, you call it adverbial. If it is play a role of a subject or object, you call it noun. So that's it. So let's move on to the features. Now, just as we discussed last class, features of adjectival phrases. Usually, sometimes we find it difficult to identify some of these things because we may not know things that are unique to some of them. Now, not only by looking at the role a particular phrase plays, but sometimes there are things that are associated with some of them. Those of you who could recall, we talked about noun, and we said when you come to noun, you may have articles, you may have a noun or pronoun acting as head word that will help you to determine whether it is noun or otherwise. And when you come to adverb, you may have lyn words or adverbs as acting as indicators or head words of such, or even subordinating conjunctions. But when you come to adjectival, how do we identify them? Now, the features is that we have what we call participials. Participial. Now, this participial, we have 3 categories. So, adjectival phrases may be introduced by participial. And now, one of them could be ing. Now, ing, when a phrase is introduced by ing and then it acts as a qualifier to a particular noun, then you call it adjectival phrase. Let's look at this example. If, for instance, we say example 1, the boy kicking the ball is smart. Now, if you underline this kicking the ball, if this is underlined, the boy kicking the ball is smart. Here, by looking at here, what is the first word here? The first word is kicking. This is ing adjectival phrase. So this kicking the ball, remember kicking here is a non-finite verb. Someone may say, okay, but it is a verb. Yes, it is, but it is a non-finite verb. So therefore, the boy kicking the ball is smart. Kicking the ball here, apart from kicking, there's no other verb, and that makes it to be called a phrase. Because if you change the subject, let's change the subject and see. The boy kicking the ball is smart. Let's change the subject from singular to plural by adding their s. The boy is kicking the ball. This is, which is outside the underlined word will change to are. You get the point? But then the kicking won't change. So since there is no other verb among the underlined words, then this is called a phrase. And what it does is to give us additional information about the noun boy. So therefore, this is an adjectival phrase and it qualifies the noun boy. So that's one example. Example 2, we may have, we say the dog barking at us is mad. Now barking at us is on a line. You get the point? So when you look at here too, barking at us, take note. When you come to identifying adjectival phrases, adverb, whatever, limit yourself to only underlined words. Your analysis must not precede or exceed it. So it means you just have to start from this point and end here. And now what do you look up for? You have to see whether there is a verb. First, if there is a verb, what category of verb is it? Is it a finite verb or is it a non-finite verb? If it is a finite verb, you can call it a clause. Then let's look at it here. Barking at us. This barking can only be said to be finite if it can change its form. And how do we establish that? Let's change the subject. Already dog is singular. Let's add s there, it is plural. The dogs barking at us are mad. Now you'll see, once you change the subject, one word will change, but it's outside the underlined words. So that is not affecting the name that you should give to this. So therefore, since there's no other word which changes, and even if you maintain the subject singular and you change the time, the dog barking at us, then you can change this to was mad. You get the point? So you see, yes, it keeps changing to are or was, but then it is not underlined, and as such is not affecting the answer. So this is also an example of ing form of adjectival phrase. Then we have example 3. Now if we say the driver speeding ahead of us is risking his life. Now speeding ahead of us is on a line. Now the driver speeding ahead of us is risking his life. Here when you look at speeding ahead of us, apart from speeding, there's no other verb that can change its form. So as such we call it adjectival phrase, because all that it does is to give us more information about the noun driver. We can always connect this. The driver is risking his life. So therefore, this is trying to give us additional information about the noun driver. So therefore, this is an adjectival phrase, though it is in ing form, that's the head word, and then it qualifies the noun driver. Now, if we have another example 4, we may say, who is the man standing there? Now, standing there is on a line. You get the point? Now, who is the man standing there? By looking at this example, the same thing, the head word here ends with ing, and apart from that, there is no other word we can change its form to agree with the subject or time. So therefore, this is a non-finite verb and it is a phrase, and it is also called adjectival phrase. Now we may have another example 5. We may say, who is the girl? Who is the girl shouting our names? Now, shouting our names is on a line, for instance. Now, by looking at these two, shouting our names is trying to give us more information about the noun girl. So, when you look at all these examples, what they do is to qualify the noun which precedes them. As simple as that. You get the point? And you can always connect them and they will make sense. That is those that are embedded. I will come to that later as we proceed. Now we also have en adjectival phrases. Now this is the first one. This is first. Second, we have en adjectival phrases. Now, some adjectival phrases may begin with words which ends with en. Now, that is the head word may end with en. For instance, if I say example 1, let's look at examples. Now, if we say bring the chair, for instance, 1, bring the chair taken from the store. Now, taken from the store is on the line here. Bring the chair taken from the store. So this taken from the store is an adjectival phrase and it qualifies the noun chair. When you look at these examples, be it the ing one and even the en, one thing is very unique is that the qualifiers are placed very close to the word they qualify. If they are very far from it, they become misplaced modifiers. But here they are not misplaced, that's why they are placed very close to the word they qualify. Then we move on to another example. If we say the piece of wood, the piece of wood broken in the middle is mahogany. The piece of wood broken in the middle is mahogany. Now, if we underline broken in the middle here, the piece of wood broken in the middle is mahogany. Now, this broken in the middle is the underlined word here. Now, this is a past participle. Already you will remember, in the course of our last lesson, we did say that when you use past participle alone, they can change their form. You get the point? Because when we talk about non-finite verbs, we say we have three categories: verbs that are preceded by to, verbs in ing form, and verbs in past participle form, or verbs acting as adjectives. And that's what happened here. So this broken cannot change. If it were broke or break, you can change the break to breaks, you can change it to broke. If it is broke, you can change it to break or break. So that's the point. So therefore, this is non-finite, because no matter what you do, it won't change. You get the point? So therefore, this is also a non-finite verb, and as such, since broken in the middle, there's no other verb that can change its form to agree with the subject or time, that we call it a phrase. Then another example is this. If you say thieves beaten by mobs, usually stop stealing. Good. Thieves beaten by a mob usually stop stealing. Beaten by a mob is on a line. You get the point. Now, by looking at this, thieves beaten by a mob, when you look at the role of this beaten by a mob, all that it does is to give us additional information about the noun thieves. In other words, it qualifies the noun thieves. So when you look at this example, now you come to realize that by looking at this, these are all adjectival phrases, and their grammatical functions, they qualify the noun which precedes them. Just like this one, you call it adjectival phrase, and the grammatical function, you say it qualifies the noun thieves. The same thing goes to other examples. All right, from there we move on to ed adjectival phrases. Now, just as we indicated earlier, now we have ed adjectival phrases. Now, some adjectival phrases have head words which end with ed. You get the point? Example 1, if we say example, now we have 1. Now if we say Aisatu enjoys pancake, Aisatu enjoys pancakes fried in butter. Now we have this. Fried in butter is on the line. I said to enjoys pancakes fried in butter. Remember, this fried here is not a verb. We know fried can be a verb in other contexts. And we did say that when you come to words, sometimes a word is named based on the role it plays. So when a word is acting as a noun, you call it a noun. When it's acting as a verb, you call it a verb. When it's acting as an adjective, you call it adjective. So fried in butter, all that it does, it is acting as a qualifier. In this case, fried in butter is trying to qualify the noun pancakes. So the grammatical name will be adjectival phrase, and grammatical function it will be it qualifies the noun pancakes. Now we move on to break. Example 2, if we say bread baked in a modern oven, baked in a modern oven appears hygienic. Now baked in a modern oven, good. Now bread baked in a modern oven appears hygienic. Now when you look at here, baked in a modern oven, this baked here ends with ed, so it is play role of an adjective. All that it does is to qualify the noun bread. You get the point? So these are some few examples that we have. Also we have, let's look at example 3 under that. So it says a player booked by a referee. For instance, a player booked by a referee is always very careful. Now, if we say booked by a referee, is underlined here. So this is also ed adjectival phrase. So here it says a player booked by a referee is always very careful. So this booked by a referee is an adjectival phrase and it qualifies the noun player. Let's look at the last part before we do our class exercise and then move on. Now the last part is prepositional. Take note, some adjectival phrases may be introduced by preposition. In other words, you may have a preposition acting as a head word of a phrase. But now, when a phrase is introduced by a preposition, it can be noun, adjectival, or adverbial. Now it is the role it plays that will qualify it to be called noun, adjectival, or adverbial. When a given expression is introduced by a preposition and then it qualifies a particular noun, then you call it adjectival. No need to call it prepositional phrase functioning as this or that. All that you do is that look at the role it plays, name it as such. If it is play a role of an adjective, call it adjectival. If it is play a role of an adverb, call it adverbial. And if it is play a role of a noun, you call it a noun phrase. So let's look at examples under prepositional phrases acting as adjective. Phrases that are introduced by preposition yet they are adjectival. Example we have, let's look at an example here. If we say example 1, the bag under the umbrella, the bag under the umbrella is white. Now, when you look at this, under the umbrella is underlined. What I was saying here is simple. By looking at the first word here, the first word under is a preposition. So you are right to call it prepositional phrase. But what is the role of this phrase? What is it doing here? Is it playing a role of a noun? In other words, is it a subject or object? Is it modifying a verb, adjective, or an adverb? Or is it qualifying a noun? Functionally, under the umbrella in this context is giving us additional information about the noun bag. You can say the bag is white. Perfect sentence. Which bag we may not know. So under the umbrella will give us more information. They are assuming we have 2 or more bags. One is under the umbrella, others are lying elsewhere. it will direct our focus to where the umbrella is. And there we will know that the bag that is being referred to is the one lying under the umbrella. So therefore, under the umbrella is an adjectival phrase, and then it qualifies the noun bag. If we say, example 2, the kite in the air, the kite in the air is moving fast. Now, in the air is on a line. The kite in the air is moving fast. When you look at this example, also the head word there is in, which is a preposition, so we call it prepositional phrase. But what is the role of this phrase? Is it playing role of a noun, an adverb, or an adjective? We know this is playing role of an adjective. As such, we call it adjectival phrase, and it qualifies the word which precedes it, which is kite, which is a noun. So therefore, we call this adjectival phrase, and in grammatical function we say it qualifies the noun kite. You get the point? That's it for adjectival phrase. Already we talked about participial. We have ing adjectival phrase. We have examples under it. We have en adjectival phrase, and we have ed adjectival phrase, and then prepositions, which is also acting as adjectival phrase. That's prepositional phrases acting as adjectival phrases. Now let's do classwork. Now already you are okay with the rules, so don't mind the head word, don't mind the expression. All that you do, analyze the expression, and once you analyze the expression, you should be able to tell the role that expression plays, whether it is play role of a noun, adjective, or so. So let's do this class exercise. Good. Now, if for instance, if time did not permit us to complete, then we will do it as homework, and our next lesson we're going to continue from there. So it says underline the adjectival phrases. The adjectival phrases, and give their functions. And give their functions in the following examples. Now, example 1. Now take your pens and then do it. Just underline it. That's adjectival phrase. I don't say noun or adverb. It's just adjectival phrase. Like the man in the class is a driver. Number 2, the tailor sleeping in the workshop is tired. The box painted under the tree is mine. There were 4. Example 4. For drivers from other towns do not start early. All right, so let's just stop here. You have to do this as classwork. If time is against us, then we'll have to leave it at this until we come in our next class. Then we'll continue from where we stop and then link it to where we're going to. So on that note, I thank you and then see you next class. So we're going to continue on adjective phrase, then we go into clauses. So do this as your homework, classwork, and then if we can't finish, then you finish it at home. Next class we do the corrections in class. So have a nice day, everyone.